This is a first-hand experience that happened to my friend, Mr. Sakano. He says even now, he can't forget it. It's a story about an elevator. It goes like this. Over 10 years ago, Mr. Sakano was living in Nagoya. Nagoya is well known as a hub for automobile manufacturing in Japan. He worked at one of the car companies there. The elevator in the building where he lived was unusual. The elevator's light was motion means sensor activated. It wouldn't turn on until someone had stepped inside. That day, Mr. Sakano had just finished work and was heading home. The elevator was parked on the first floor. He pressed the button, and the doors slid open. Inside, he saw a girl standing in the dark elevator. Her hair was short. She wore a headband and a reed skirt. For a moment, a shock ran through him. He was startled, but then he realized instantly who it was. She was the daughter of Ms. BA2, a single mother who also lived in the building. It was about 5 in the afternoon, so it was strange for an elementary school girl to be playing around at that time. The girl greeted my friend cheerfully. "Uncle, you're back. The elevator light seems broken." Sakano looked at the elevator light and found it odd. Then he stepped inside and the light flicked on. He thought maybe the sensor hadn't detected the girl because of her small size. It seemed harmless enough. The next morning, as Sakano left for work, he ran into Ms. BA2 in the elevator. They talked about what happened the day before. "You know, your daughter standing alone in the pitch-black elevator yesterday really startled me. It was kind of funny," he said. Her face suddenly froze in shock, then quickly returned to normal. With a stiff smile, she replied, "You must be mistaken. I sent my daughter to a friend's place the day before yesterday. She's been there for several days now. I haven't brought her back yet." Sakano felt a chill creep through him after hearing that. Something was definitely off. It was hard to describe, but besides feeling eerie, he just knew something didn't add up. That afternoon, when Sakano returned home from work, the elevator doors opened, and there she was again, that little girl, inside the dark elevator. "Uncle, you're back," she said. The elevator light switched on as he stepped in. Sakano smiled back. "You're back too. It's almost dinner time. You should head home. He'll come with you." He pressed the button for Ms. BATO's floor. When the elevator stopped and he walked to her apartment door, just as he was about to ring the bell, he hesitated. The nameplate was missing. The mailbox was sealed shut. Normally, that meant no one was living there anymore. The place was probably being rented out. He turned back toward the elevator and saw the girl poking half her head out the doors to look at him. "What's going on?" he wondered aloud. Walking toward the elevator, he asked the girl, "Hey, did you guys move?" She ducked her head back inside without answering. Sakano reached the elevator, pressed the button, and the doors opened. But inside it was completely empty. His mind went blank. What on earth was happening? He rushed up the stairs and searched around, but there was no sign of anyone. The little girl had vanished. It was just too creepy. He hurried home. Ms. BA2 disappeared not long after. A few days later, one night when Sakano was home from work, the news flashed on the TV. They reported a child's body found by the nearby riverbank. Authorities estimated she had been dead for over a week. The news said Ms. BA2 and her partner had been arrested, suspected of insurance fraud. Hearing that, Sakano was stunned, his skin prickling. The little girl had seen she was alive. He'd even chatted with the murderer herself, Ms. BA2. But it got worse. In the days that followed, whenever Sakano got home around 5 in the evening, that little girl still stood inside the dark elevator. Maybe she didn't even realize she was already dead. I used to live in a 12-story building. My apartment was on the 8th floor. Because it was so high up, I hardly ever climbed the stairs. I guess anyone living on such high floors is the same. They rely on the elevator. Climbing all those stairs every day would be exhausting. But ever since a sudden incident happened long ago, ever since that sudden incident long ago, I've only ever taken the stairs, never the elevator. Here's how it went. Back when I was still a lazy college student, it was a day with no classes. I slept in until noon. When I finally got up, I decided to head out to the convenience store to grab something to eat. I stepped outside and walked to the elevator. At that time, the elevator was sitting on the very top floor, the 12th floor. It looked like someone was about to come down, so I pressed the button for the elevator to go down. When the doors slid open, there stood a middle-aged man I often ran into. I guessed he probably lived on the 12th floor. I nodded and greeted him, then stepped inside. I noticed the button for the first floor was already lit, so the elevator started to descend. It stopped on the 4th floor. A courier stepped in. We were the three going down to the first floor. Once the doors closed, the elevator kept moving down, then suddenly it jerked to a stop between the 2nd and 1st floors. That sudden halt shook the elevator just a little. We looked at each other, unsure what had happened. Was it a malfunction? It didn't seem like a power outage, because the lights inside the elevator stayed on. I whispered to myself, "What's going on? Why now?" The lady and the courier grumbled and wondered the same. After a while passed with no movement. The courier pressed the emergency call button, but no one answered. "This is ridiculous. What the hell is going on?" he muttered. I checked my watch. It was 12:57 p.m. We fell into silence for just a few seconds, but long enough to let a strange unease creep in. That kind of anxiety that settles slowly, tightens your chest. Then, without warning, the elevator jerked back to life. All three of us jumped at once. Oddly, though, the only lit button was for the 1st floor, but the elevator started moving up. It climbed past the 4th floor, the 5th, the 6th. We were all terrified. The courier shouted, "Hey, what the hell is this?" Then the elevator stopped at the 8th floor. The doors swung open fast, much faster than normal. It was as if some invisible force yanked them wide in an instant. That sudden burst made me jump. I stared, stunned. The lady muttered, "This elevator feels unstable. I don't want to get stuck in here again." Without hesitation, she rushed out. The courier turned to me. "Yeah, I don't trust this elevator. Better to get out. Who knows what might happen if we stay in." He also stepped out, and honestly, neither of them was wrong. We'd gotten lucky this time. We could still escape. But next time, what if the elevator malfunctioned, was pulled a free fall straight down, maybe crushed into some tin can midnight snack? I wanted to leave with them, but something held me back. I paused uneasy. I looked out from the open elevator doors. Sure, it was the view from the 8th floor of my building, but it was unnaturally dark. Not a single light on. The hallway was swallowed in shadows, so thick it was almost impossible to see. I wondered if maybe there was a blackout. But inside the elevator, the lights shone brightly, despite the strange motion. The elevator was clearly still running. So no, this wasn't a power outage. It was unsettling, strange. I glanced again outside. Through the 8th floor's view, the sky glowed a deep red. No sun, no clouds, nothing but that bright, unnatural crimson. It sent a chill crawling down my spine. Was it sunset? But this was midday. The sky should never look like that. I looked down toward the floors below. Nothing but pitch black. No lights anywhere. No details visible. The distant highway and building silhouettes, just black shadows. Same with the other apartments. No lights. No sounds. The usual rush of traffic. The screech of brakes. The murmur of voices completely gone. It was eerily silent. almost frightening. No movement anywhere. It was hard to explain precisely what I was seeing. But, simply put, the whole scene felt utterly devoid of life. Black and reed. Only black and reed filled the world. And here we were. The elevator, brightly lit, a small beacon brightly glowing in the sea of darkness. I thought for a moment. The elevator doors were about to close, but what should I do? Should I get off the elevator? Or should I stay? In the end, I chose to stay inside. This time, the elevator behaved normally. No strange anomalies. It went straight down to the first floor quietly. When the doors opened, the scene outside was just as usual, people walking on the street, cars passing by. It looked like a normal daytime, familiar everyday life. I let go of my fear, trusting my gut that everything was fine now. So I stepped out of the elevator. As I walked onto the street, I kept my head down to calm myself. Suddenly, the entire surroundings fell eerily silent. Not a single sound. How could it be so quiet? The street was utterly deserted. I lifted my head and looked around. The sky above was exactly like the reed-black shade I had seen back on the 8th floor, a deep scarlet without a single cloud. Not a soul, not a single vehicle anywhere. Could this be real? As I stood there puzzled, I noticed a figure standing far away at the corner of the road. Because the light was too dark, I couldn't make out any details. Instinctively, I waved my hand and shouted, "Hey, excuse me," before I could finish my sentence. The figure started walking toward me. I kept shouting, "Why is it just you and me on the street?" There was no response. The figure kept coming closer. A chill ran down my spine. Something about this person felt wrong, eerily familiar. As he neared, my heart pounded faster. The figure looked exactly like me. From a distance, I could tell he wore the same clothes I had on. He got even closer. Though I couldn't see his face clearly, I was certain it was me. But this other me wore a sinister grin that sent a shiver through my whole body. That evil smile made my skin crawl. I was terrified. My mind screamed, "This is bad. Run." My instincts told me I had to escape, go back to the elevator. Just as I was about to move, that other me suddenly broke into a run toward me. I panicked. I dashed back into the apartment and slammed the elevator button. The elevator was on the 5th floor. It slowly opened. I was a mess, heart pounding, nerves stretched tight. I kept glancing anxiously toward the door, scared that other me would catch up. Finally, the elevator reached the 1st floor. The doors slid open. I hurried inside and slammed the doors shut. Once inside, I quickly pressed the button for the 8th floor. Outside the building, the other me had already arrived at the front entrance. He charged forward toward me. I desperately mashed the close-in door button as I watched him getting closer and closer. My palms were sweaty with fear. Just as he was about to reach the elevator, I caught a clear look at his face. It was twisted, savage to horrifying to describe. I yelled and was so startled I collapsed onto the floor. At the same moment, the elevator doors snapped shut in a rush. I heard pounding sounds from outside, another me furiously banging on the elevator doors, shouting curses. "I want out, you bastard," he screamed. "And next time, I swear I'll make you pay. You'll stay in this world forever." The elevator started moving upward toward the 8th floor. When it finally arrived, the doors slid open. Someone was standing there. I gasped in shock and screamed. The female university student waiting by the elevator jumped back startled and screamed too. She looked completely normal. Collecting myself, I stepped out of the elevator. Outside, everything was as bright and bustling as before, cars and people moving about. I was back in the world I knew. After apologizing to the student,